Hello world, this is Jeffrey, JJB146 Blake for Hoopa Hideout, and I'm coming to you today with a little bit on how Peony can fit into Miraidon in early 2024. So, I actually have to start off with an apology, because the list that I showed you on the first video, I frankly don't think it's very good. I've tested it now over and over. I hadn't really done a whole lot of Peony build testing, and since it placed in the top 32, I thought it was going to be good, but in my testing, I've only achieved like a 40% win rate, if even that. So I moved on. I found a different Peony driven build, still from the Portland Regional. It just placed in the top 128 instead of the top 32. This one, actually, I think it was top 64. This one was piloted by Ben something. And we'll get into how it differs real quick from the other Peony based build. And then I actually have an additional version of Miraidon that placed in the top 4 at Charlotte Regionals this weekend. So we can glance at it. It's kind of a bridge that seeks to do a little bit of both what this build does and what the build we saw that made top 8 in Portland did. So first off, the build from Portland that's Peony focused. This is the best Peony focused build that I've seen. It matches a lot of things about other successful Peony builds that I've talked to people about. And it's done pretty well for me. So, what's different from the last one? Well, it plays 2 Iron Hands to make sure that if you're against decks that are putting out low HP Pokemon, you can do that amp you very much attack very quickly. It still plays the 2 Mew because that's still basically where you get your draw from. We always want to start with a Squawk, and we play the Squawk for that. We play Lumineon to be able to get to our Peonies. At some point, you're going to need to get to one and not get there from draw. So hopefully Lumineon can give you that extra piece that you need to get there. Other than that, we still have a 1/1 line of Flaaffy and 1/1 of, 1/1, just a 1 count of a lot of our different attackers. We do only play 1 Raichu V, but that's because we're really heavily focusing on Iron Hands. We've got the Spiritomb as a potential Mew counter. The list we're going to see plays Drapion, and we'll talk about that when I switch over. And then, of course, we've bumped up. Now it's a 4 count of Peony, not a 3 count, so you're going to get to Peony more often than you did if you happened to test the previous Peony list. We took out the Arvins, and then we've got Bossless Orders and Raihan at the same counts that they were in previously. Honestly, I barely ever use Raihan. He's a great supporter. I love the card, but it just doesn't really work out for me. And part of that's because we don't have the draw behind it. So I rarely have Raihan in hand when I need it. I find that this build, the Peony based builds in general, all really struggle against Path to the Peak. So that's my biggest criticism, is that where the list we had from top 8 from Nicholas Moffat, that list, I didn't have that many problems with Path to the Peak. But this list, I have suffered playing against Path decks. This one's a bit better than the one from top 32 about dealing with Path, but any of the Peony lists, when you're relying on strictly Mew EX to draw through your cards and you never play draw supporters, you're never going to have a big hand. You're never going to have the cards you need to really hit your outs to Path frequently. Now, yes, Peony can search them out. You can find the beach courts, you can find the town store, but you have to find the Peonies, and that's the problem. That said, with the 4 count of Peony and the Lumineon, you do see them more often now than you did with the 3 count in the previous list. Other than that, this is pretty standard, I think. I don't think the previous list played an EXP share. I already talked about how important I think EXP share is going forwards, so I think that having at least one is good. Choice Belt is something that I could see throwing in against some of the decks, especially the Giratinas that are being super popular because they keep winning regionals. So that's another thought as well. We do play a 1 count of Battle VIP because Peony can search it out as one of the 2 cards that you search out in the beginning, and that's enough. That'll get you that Battle VIP pass when you need it, and then from there you can always get your Squawkabilly and your Miraidon, or if you've started with one of those 2 things, you can get a Mew as well as whatever you're missing. And then obviously Miraidon will help you get all the rest of your attackers. That's this list in a nutshell. It plays 2 rope and 1 switch cart. I'd like to see a little bit more switching effects in there, personally. I know we have the 2 beach court as well, but that isn't a switch effect from my perspective. And then we will now switch over and look at the list from Ryan Miller that performed well. It got top 4 at Charlotte Regionals, the biggest regionals we've had so far. So here we bumped up to 2 Raichu V to have 2 big attackers now, but I kind of don't like the change here. It's 2 Raichu V instead of a 1 Raichu, 1 Raikou. And the problem from my perspective is that Raikou is such an efficient attacker and that he can draw us an extra card. So I'd prefer the split, or even dropping down and just playing 1 Iron Hands and 1 Raikou. That's based on, you know, the decks I've been facing and what I've been seeing. We also have the Drapion V in here that I mentioned before. And the problem with Drapion V as a Mew counter is that Mew is becoming more and more a path-based deck. We're seeing a lot more of the DTE-based Mew decks. And Drapion only works if you have your abilities turned on. So here again, I think that we'd be better off with Spiritomb. And actually Ryan said sort of the same thing. Because Spiritomb, you get it down, and Mew is slowed down a lot. They can still function, especially if they play some Fusion Strike Energy. They can still do things a little bit, but they're slowed down. They're constrained in a way that gives you a decent chance, even if you don't have your abilities either. The support account you can see here is split. We've got the 2 boss, and then we've got 3 Peony and 3 research. So we have some good draw support, and we have Peony to search out generators or path bumps when we need them. And I think that this is a pretty good split. You can kind of go whichever direction you need to. We've got 3 EXP shares, which is great, but we don't have any Bravery Charms or Choice Belts. So I'd kind of still like to see one or both of those thrown in. And the last thing that I'll note is that he played 2 Pokemon catchers. For me, in the first like 10 games that I played, maybe 15 games, every single catcher I played, I got tails on. I know that's ultimately just bad luck, but that's what you're going to see when you're playing a coin flip based card. For that reason, I'd rather this Pokemon catcher be something else. Again, we have 3 total switching cards. So part of me wants to say that one of the catchers could be another Escape Rope or another switch card or something. I could also see fitting it as a Lost Vacuum so that we can have that extra path bump. Ryan actually said that he would replace Beach Court with a Lost Vacuum because it's a more flexible counter to Path to the Peak, and can be used for other purposes in decks where you need to discard a tool for some reason instead of needing to get rid of the Path to the Peak. So take that. I mean, he made top 4. He knows the deck. He put this monstrosity together to merge the 2 versions. So that may be worth considering. But again, I think I would cut from the catcher lines before I cut the court. But that's me. And that's pretty much all I have to say about the deck list. So with that, we'll go ahead and get into the live play. For the live play, again, though, I am using this list, the straight Peony focus list, so that you can evaluate it. I will say that the performance from my perspective between the straight Peony list and Ryan's merged list was pretty comparable. So I think you're fine. If you want to have Peony in your list, I think you can go either of these ways. But if I were to go and play Miraidon in a tournament today, I would 100% play the exact 60 that is in episode 1 from Nicholas Moffat at Portland. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and start the live play right now. Okay, so our first match to review is a Roaring Moon matchup with Miraidon, and this is generally regarded as a matchup that's favorable to Roaring Moon, but it's still close. So if Roaring Moon has consistency issues that Miraidon can take advantage of, then Miraidon can pull it out. It also heavily depends on who takes the first knockout, and especially here, who's going second. So we're going to set up a lot of the time. With the Peony build, we probably set up slightly even more often than a typical Miraidon list. So our opponent then has to figure out, how to counter that. Now, the thing that they have going for them that makes it better for them than us typically is that they will have the ability to hit 220 and knock out most of our Pokemon, whereas we have to hit 230, which means we have to have Zapdos in play. unless we're attacking with Raichu. So we see them go ahead, they get down Morpeko, they get down Greninja, they get down a Roaring Moon. They're going to get some energies out of the deck. They get in one attachment on the Roaring Moon, and then they pass. So they had an okay turn. We top deck the boss's orders, and if there's anything that's going to win us game, it's taking out their only Roaring Moon. That will put us significantly ahead. So we're going to try to do that. We definitely want to get Squawkabilly and Miraidon. And then, since their bench isn't very full, it wouldn't matter if we had Raikou in deck. We wouldn't be able to use him right now. We can go ahead and play that Nest Ball, though, as well as using Tandem Unit. So I choose to go ahead and play the Escape Rope, giving them an opportunity to make a mistake and send up the Roaring Moon, but they do not. So I'm probably going to switch cart back into Mew so that I'll have the Free Retreater in the active again. And then I may go ahead and boss up the Roaring Moon. I'm also going to attach the Bravery Charm so that they will have to use their extra heavy hits if they want to take us out. So here I think we want to get, I think Iron Hands and Mareep are okay choices. Note that we did not have Zapdos in deck, so right now attacking with Miraidon is not an option. So we'll get Raichu as well, so that if we get 4 energies spread out enough, we can make that work out. We do have the town store that we can go ahead and search out whatever we want. So when I say search out, sorry, I shortcutted there. We have the town store, so we can get a Forest Steel Stone, so then we can search out whatever we want. We can also just put an EXP share in play to help us out for later turns. Putting it onto Mew means that Mew will be able to copy either of the attacks from Roaring Moon, and that's a pretty powerful effect. And at this point, we have now hit 2 energy off the first generator. As long as we can hit 1 more, we will be able to. So we're going to get 2 more generators off of Peony. As long as we can hit 1 more after that, we will be able to take 2 prizes. So here we're just going to pick something that we don't want anymore, and that basically is going to be Iron Hands, because we've already got 1 in play. We're going to take the only 2 prize knockout that Iron Hands is probably capable of taking this game, because they're going to they're probably going to knock him out back. In which case, we will be done with him. So discarding the second one is ideal. We won't have generators to power up another Iron Hands, and in this matchup, he won't be that useful. So generator, we hit 2 more, so we can attack with Iron Hands this turn and take 2 prizes, and then we're going to try to set it up so we can attack with Raichu next turn. We didn't hit this generator, but we should have, if we can get to Flaaffy, we should have energy from the discard plus 1 from the EXP share plus an attachment next turn, and that should put us in a good spot to be able to go ahead and knock out a Roaring Moon. Hitting off that last generator is even better, because now we are basically guaranteed to have at least 4 energy in play, which means Raichu can take a knockout. We get Tapu Koko, EX, and Ultra Ball. Still don't have the Zapdos to enable Miraidon to take a knockout, but Tapu Koko can be good. Probably not worthwhile for us in this specific instance. So I'm going through double checking that yes, I have played all 4 generators, so that can influence what we get off of Lumineon if and when we bench Lumineon to get a supporter next turn. We do see their Roaring Moon get a Dark Patch energy thrown on, so as long as they can get to another energy in some form, they'll be able to power him up and take a knockout this turn. But they will have to do it with the Frenzy Gouging attack unless something changes. Let's see, Galarian Moltres come down. They're playing the Forest Steel Stone to choose a card, any card they want. And it looks like they just picked an energy. They're going to throw on an Ancient Booster Capsule as well, bumping their health all the way up to 290. And then they will take a knockout on Raichu. We also send the 4 Seal Stone away. That's okay. We're going to go ahead and move the 1 energy over, and we'll promote Mew as our free retreater. Now we have a couple different options here. So we can try to take 2 prizes on Morpeko, or we can get the Flaaffy with the Ultra Ball. And we can try to see potentially if our other Raichu is still in deck, we could get him off of Tandem Unit and power him up. Looks like the other Raichu is not in deck, so we'll have to go ahead and use Flaaffy potentially to power up the Miraidon. And Miraidon can take a 2 prize knockout on Moltres, and Iron Hands can take a 2 prize knockout on Morpeko. So we can get another 2 prize knockout, and that's the most important thing at this point. And I think I'm best off just going ahead and attaching with Dynamotor to Miraidon here. It'd be great if we could attach to Mew, but we don't have that option right now. I think the best thing for us at this point is if our opponent sends up Morpeko and we get that 2 prize knockout, because that would enable us to go ahead and have another shot at getting Zapdos off the prizes or Raichu off the prizes. And here I'm thinking about playing Lumineon V down. I decided to go ahead and go for it and get a Peony. And off of the Peony, what am I going to get? So getting the Super Rod I think is a great choice. I can get the 4 Seal Stone as well. That's probably what I would pick at this point. And I'd say it's probably a good idea to go ahead and play the Super Rod. But I'm also going to use the 4 Seal Stone to pick a card. So we're looking, double checking things, and I look like I do go ahead and get the Raichu back. That's probably the only thing I really want back. I don't want to put more another Iron Hands or Tapu Koko into the deck. So we get him back in, and then we'll draw 3 cards with Mew. We get another energy, which is great. We can attach that to the Mew. And we haven't yet used the 4 Seal Stone, so worst case scenario, we can always get Raichu next turn and use that 4 Seal Stone to get the last energy that he'll need to be powered up to take a knockout. If worst comes to worst, we could always attack with Mew and take the final knockout here, but if we do that, Mew's going to be knocked out as well, and that's tough for us. So our opponent getting their own Mew down to get a little bit of draw that way. They see an Earthen Vessel, discarding an energy to get a couple. And they'll attach to their Mew and then play Iono. Fortunately for us, we don't really need any cards to be in our hand, so long as we have Flaaffy and we have a way, like we need a card. We need either Raichu or an energy or the they chose to skip the knockout there. That's probably not the best option for them. It looks like they go ahead and decide to scoop at that point. I think they might have made a mistake and not realized that we were going to get the knockout there. In any case, we were certainly going to win from that point forward. Probably the next step that I was going to take, given the prize exchange, I would have just attached an energy to Mew and taken the knockout that way, because we'd hit all the prizes we need, and they would not. If they had taken the knockout, then I think we probably can just boss up Morpeko and get our final 2 prizes that way without knocking ourselves out. Now our next matchup is against Mew. And once again, this is in general, slightly unfavored matchup. A lot of times we can take the first knockout, and we'll try to then use Raichu to get the second knockout on a Mew VMAX. And then if we can take another knockout on something else, we're golden. I'm trying to go 3-3 is going to be tough, even with 2 Raichu in deck, because that's a lot of energy, and getting that much energy back into play can be kind of tough. Having access to Zapdos will definitely help us this game though, because Zapdos bumps up our damage by 10, which means Raichu will hit for 310 when discarding 5 energies instead of hitting for 300. And that's the difference between discarding 5 or 6 energies to get the knockout on the Mew VMAX. So we're also lucky we managed to go second again, which is going to be big for us in this matchup. They will get a turn of being able to draw with Genesect, but thankfully, after that, we'll get our Spiritomb in play. And once Spiritomb comes out, well, we get to have fun. Even if they're playing Fusion Energies, it's going to slow them down and force them to make plays that they might not want to make otherwise. And thankfully, we have Peony in hand too, because a lot of Mew that's being played is the DTE Mew, which means that it's not unlikely for them to play a first turn Path to the Peak. They did discard one, so that helps us a bit, but they can certainly do it again. Having Peony will give us access to a Path Bump if we need it, and if we don't need it, that's great too. We'll just be able to get rid of it. We'll be able to get two generators instead. So either way, I think we're in a good spot. We can definitely set up and push for a great placement. Off of this Chromatic, they might be looking for... No, they already attached DTE. This might be a path that they're getting. Yep, looks like it. Okay, so once again, we're very glad that we have Peony. So we're going to go ahead and bench Miraidon and the Zapdos. Then we probably want to go ahead and attach an energy to Miraidon, because he's the most efficient attacking means we have in this particular deck for knocking out a 180 HP Mew. Now, in other versions of the deck, we'd be able to definitely take a knockout on with Raikou V, but here we don't have that option. We're choosing now to get Battle VIP Pass and Beach Court. We want to get Squawkabilly, we want to get Spiritomb, we want to get off of the tandem unit, we'll also get a Raichu. So to make this go, but that unfortunately does mean we do not get to just choose to get a generator, and that's unfortunate. So we will go for the tandem unit. Looks like I'm double checking what we discarded, and then yeah, I'll go here and I'll get Raichu. Now it looks like I misspoke. I was thinking of the other version of the Peony build. I was thinking of Ryan's version. So we did actually have the chance there to play, to get Raikou as a more efficient attacker to take a knockout turn 1. I had forgotten that that was the version of the deck that we're playing. Now here we are going to go ahead and kind of push ourselves to try to find, through card draw, that one extra draw to hope we can hit a generator. We'll put Mareep and 2 energies back in. Still have 1 in the discard, so that if and when we get Mareep set up as Flaaffy, we'll be able to use that ability. But our extra draw there did not yield any good results. So we're just going to have to go ahead and retreat. We'll send up Squawkabilly, because honestly, them taking 2 prizes on Squawkabilly is not a huge deal for us. Because now we are going to have to go through at least 1 Mew VMAX. So we're going to be looking to go for 3 prizes, and then if they're able to set up again, we're going to try to repeat that. And all they do is promote and attack. So now we can promote Mew VMAX or Mew EX again, and we can thin our deck further with Miraidon, getting out the getting out the Mareep, so that we can have that extra added attachment later on. And then we will play Peony to just go ahead and get 2 generators. So these 2 generators should hopefully help us hit. We hit 1 off of the first generator, which is unfortunate. That means we don't have enough off of just the generators to take out a Mew VMAX. I decided to go ahead and attach that 1 energy to Miraidon, and we hit 1 more off of that generator, which I'll also attach to Miraidon. The reason I did the first energy to Miraidon is if we hit enough off of Raichu to be able to take a big attack, then we'd be in a good spot already. If we didn't, I wanted to be able to attack at least with Miraidon. So we're going to go ahead and retreat now. And we will attack for that 220, 230 actually. And the good thing is that Mew can't use a choice belt, so they have to hit town stores to power up to be able to knock out Miraidon. And without that, they're going to be unable to take a one-hit knockout. Now we do see them coming down with the Lost Vacuum, discarding the Beach Court. Now I think they'd have been in a better spot. It would have been a better idea to go ahead and actually knock out the EXP share from Raichu. But it looks like they've determined that they probably are not going to get that knockout. We do go ahead and restart. We get boss's orders. That's great for us, obviously. We're going to take the knockout on the Mew VMAX. And we'll have to retreat. And now we can just Dynamic Spark. And we will only have to discard 2 energies. So I choose to go 1 off of each. In retrospect, I think this was a slight mistake, and I was probably better off just taking 2 off of Raichu so that I could guarantee that Miraidon could attack again next turn. But drawing into a Peony, we should be able to go ahead and get another, an Ultra Ball to get Mareep into play so that we can attach 2 energies that way. They switch Zapdos into the active, which really doesn't do a whole lot. So we're going to attach 2 Raichu V here instead of Miraidon, just because that gives us the knockout on Mew, and they won't have an attacker next turn. We go ahead, get the switching cart, and get an Electric Generator. Instead of going for Flaaffy, we can just try to get extra energy in play this way. And the switch cart will let us put Mew into the active, or we can just go straight for Raichu. That's fine too, because with Raichu in the active, we'll take a knockout. They can't attack us next turn. We actually managed to hit the Flaaffy as well off of the 3 cards from Mew EX. And we are just sitting pretty at this point. There's literally nothing that can happen to keep us from winning the game. So we'll go ahead and take the Dynamic Spark knockout. Well, we would have if our opponent hadn't conceded. But at that point, the game was pretty much over. I will say we got lucky to hit boss's orders when we hit it. But you were able to see how much of an impediment was created by Spiritomb. They just couldn't get to the resources they needed to take knockouts. And that is basically how the matchup goes. Usually it's not that much of a downside for Mew VMAX to be copying Genesec's attack and only able to attack every other turn because they just switch in and out to repeat attacks, or they have a second Mew VMAX set up and they retreat back to each other. But we shut down that concept by shutting down their draw. They weren't able to get that setup going. And that's the result. I will say that I played other matchups. I didn't get recordings of them, but I played other matchups against Mew, and even when they're playing the 2 count of Fusion Energy along with a 1 count of Elisa's, that's not enough to make it a favored matchup for them. We can target down the Genesec's that are able to draw, and it becomes very much in Miraidon's favor. Alrighty, for our next matchup, we're going to see a Chin PAL match off against Miraidon. Chin PAL kind of comes down to, again, if we can get ourselves established fast enough to set them back, to put them on the back foot. A lot of times this can come down to getting some Iron Hands knockouts early on. Thankfully, Miraidon gets a clean knockout on Chin PAL, so that can make things work out well too. And we can always, if we hit enough Gust cards, we can get their Frigibacks off the field, and we can win it that way as well. So lots of different avenues that can work out well for us, but if they get set up, that can be a problem. Here we do see a Chin PAL as their starter. Open up with Shivery Chill to get some energy into hand, and then I'm sure we'll see more Pokemon come into play. So we do see the Battle VIP Pass coming down. I'm sure this will get okay, a Bidoof and a Greninja. I'm guessing they either already have Frigibacks in hand or they have a way to get to it. And sure enough, they had it in hand. And then we see an manual attachment to Chin PAL, and that's their turn. Okay, so this is good for us. They only have 1 Frigibacks in play, so that's sort of a free extra turn if we can knock him out. And it obviously takes less resources to knock out a 60 HP Frigibacks. than it would anything else. Zapdos and Tapu Koko I don't think are very relevant for this matchup, because there's nothing that extra 10 boost is going to help us with, and they usually play enough switching cards that the paralysis isn't a big factor. I do think that it's probably best to go ahead and play the boss's orders and get the Frigibax into the active. I'm debating here on whether we want to do that or we want to go after Chien-Pao, but there's a whole lot more we can do attacking the Frigibax. Like, we just need to hit 1 energy off of a generator for Raichu to make that work. We'd have to hit 3 off of generators for Miraidon to be able to take the knockout on Chien-Pao. Now, all of that said, we didn't really even get to a generator, so that's a little painful, but we'll still see what we can do. Maybe we can still make something happen. Stick the EXP share. You could put it on Miraidon. I think Miraidon's better than Mew here, because more than likely, if something is getting knocked out, it's going to be, well, it's not going to be Miraidon early enough, and being able to get to attack with Miraidon for a second turn is probably better. Here I'm Ultra Balling to get another Mew, so we can potentially get, we'll be able to draw 2, and then we might be able to play some of those cards and draw again. We do get to a generator. Now I'm going to look, we have 3 energy in the discard. I'm going to put at least 2 of them back. I choose to go ahead and go all 3. That's fine. We're going to be discarding energy with Raichu, so if we get Flaaffy next turn, we're guaranteed to have at least 1 in the discard. We only hit 1 off the generator, so it's probably best that we did put all of them back to maximize the chances, and then we hit a bunch of supporters. So we're going to retreat into the Raichu. We'll discard 1 energy to knock out the Frigibax, and we'll be kind of rolling from that point. So this sets our opponent back a full turn. They will not be able to take any kind of a knockout, and hopefully that is enough to push us forward so that we can set pace in the game. Chances are pretty good that we're going to Peony for a couple of generators next turn. We've got both of the Mews set up, and we know we're not against a path deck, so that's helpful. Our opponent gets Bibarel in place, but Bibarel's not even that useful yet. They've got a huge hand. Maybe they're going to play enough of it down, but we'll have to see. Now, if they were to only have the 1 Frigibax in play, our decision gets a little tougher. We'd like to, at that point, gust it up and take it out, but we need another energy in play to make that happen. Okay, but they do get a second Frigibax off of the Ultra Ball, so it becomes a moot point. We're not going to try to take out Frigibaxes anymore. We might take out Baxcaliburs, because that will eat up some of their resources, but they just have to pass because they don't have time. And now we have the town store, which will enable us to get whatever card we want. Again, using town store to get 4 Sealstone. There's an argument for doing that before we play Peony. There's an argument for playing Peony first, but if we're just going to get generators here, I decided to get 1 generator and an Ultra Ball. So the Ultra Ball guarantees us an energy from the discard. Okay, I go with 2 generators instead. I think the Ultra Ball would guarantee us 1 energy because we'd be able to play the Ultra Ball to discard 2 things off of our first Mew's draw and get Flaaffy that way. But this way we can use both generators and power things up this way. And then if we still need to get Flaaffy out, we can always use the 4 Sealstone on Raichu to just directly grab Flaaffy, or to grab something else if something else becomes more important. So I like that I changed my mind there. We do get an Ultra Ball and 2 Pokemon that we don't really care about, so that's perfect. We'll just Ultra Ball them away. We get the Flaaffy, we'll go ahead and evolve, and then we can draw some more cards with Mew. We get another generator and 2 energy. So we'll play the generator, and I think at this point I might attach to the Flaaffy so that if we have to retreat it, we're already just 1 attachment away. We'll Dynamotor, and we'll go on to the Mew, but we're probably just going to go ahead and attack with Raichu anyway, and we'll discard it. We can discard both of the energies off of Raichu, or we could retreat. We could retreat and just attack with Miraidon. I think either option is okay. We know that we're going to have at least 4 energy in play next turn. This way we can save the Forest Seal Stone and use it to get something that's important to us next turn. So I don't mind that at all. I think that was pretty good. We see Radiant Greninja come up to the active. Now that's a little unexpected. I mean, I guess they have to promote something, so they might as well promote Greninja. He only has a 1 retreat cost. And then we see Irida getting played. So here I would expect them to get a Chin PAL, and then to load up energy on the Chin PAL to take the knockout on Miraidon. That's not a problem for us because we'll take the return knockout with Raichu, and then we're just 1 prize away from winning the game. But they don't get any Pokemon off of Irida. My guess then is that they must have prized a Chin PAL, and the only one they really have access to is actually the one that's in the discard. So they'll need a Super Rod to get him back, and it doesn't look like they have it. So they'll be attacking with Greninja this turn? That will be interesting. If they attack with Greninja, it still doesn't mess up our prize trade, because we'll be able to take 1 prize, and then we can take 2 prizes on the next Chin PAL. Okay, so they do have a Super Rod. They play it, and then they're going to play Barrel. I guess if they got enough resources, they could always put Chin PAL into play here if they get him off of Barrel, but they did not. Okay, so we see them doing 90-90 to the Muse. If they get to Greninja again, they would take 4 prizes that way, and that would remove some of our energy from play too. I think we still would be fine, but I think we're probably best off protecting ourselves by adding a Bravery Charm to one of them. So yeah, we can use the town storage, get a Bravery Charm, and attach that to one of the Muse so that another Moonlight Shuriken, if they were to like recycle things and make that happen, isn't going to take 4 prizes. They see that that's what we're doing. They see that their potential for a 4 prize turn is going away, and they go ahead and concede at that point. Because we're going to have 1 knockout left to take, and they won't have a way to take enough knockouts without getting a 4 prize turn. I think even if we hadn't protected the Mew, we'd probably still win it, because we'll take 1 prize there, and then we can take 2 prizes on the following turn. But obviously protecting the Mew just sealed the deal. That'll wrap things up for this episode, but we are going to have 2 more episodes. The next one's going to be a tips and tricks episode to kind of discuss different things that you can do with either or sometimes both builds of Miraidon to try to improve your results just by taking little steps to make things go smoother. So we're going to have that, and then we will actually have a final episode to go over what Miraidon is going to and probably should look like post-rotation. I need to spend some time theory crafting how that build should look, but I have a few ideas, and some of them may surprise you. So look forward to those when I get to them in the next week or so. And with that, this is Jeffrey, JGB146 Blake for Hoopa Hideout, saying thank you for watching.